Yeah, good afternoon, students. Today is in your revision class of fundamental computers. We are going to see what various generations of computer. Okay, this is one important question in unit 1, generations of computers. Okay, generations means there are several evaluations will be there, how it is got evaluated. So if you see your long back, around 20 decades back or 30 decades back, if you see how the computer was and how now the computer was, how now the computer has become. So that's what we are going to see. So how it has been evolved, if you see in the previous long years back and all, how it will be, it is in a large size. The computers was a large size which can able to perform very simple calculations, very normal calculations, almost like your calculator what can able to perform, like that the calculations can able to perform. It was in that way in those years and all. So it can make the size was very large and it can able to make only simple calculation in those years, and it has been evolved slowly grown up. And how it has become smaller, which you already know right now, what you're seeing now, become smaller and can able to perform more powerful machine actions. More powerful machines has come and it can able to perform many tedious calculations. Okay, in that way it has become. So this is how the evaluation of your computer was, from a big machine to smaller machine and a simple calculation to your complex calculations. So this is how the evaluation has become. So if you take into a generation, we have 5 generations of computers. So that's what we are going to see one by one. If you take a first generation, the year I have mentioned is it has almost started in the 1940s. From 1940s to 19, almost 16 years. Okay, almost 16 years. The first generation was there. In those years, in your 1940s, 45s, 1950s and all, if you see all the electronic machines, to generate an electricity, they were using a vacuum tubes. So same like that, we know the computer is an electronic device. So this device is also required a vacuum tube to generate the to generate the electricity. So the same technique they were using it. So they were using that vacuum tubes over there. and and if you take a and if you take a computer, it needs an input, it needs an output, it needs a memory. So to generate a electricity, we have discussed it need a vacuum tube. So for the memory purpose, they were using a magnetic drums. They were using your magnetic drums. Okay, for the memory purpose, to store the data, whatever that, what they were using is magnetic. Nowadays there is no magnetic drums and all. In those days they were using it to give an input right now. So if you take now, if you whatever you are seeing right now is you are giving an input through keyboard, at least you know that one, no? A computer, if you think of itself, it means it's a keyboard. Those days there was no keyboard, no monitor, nothing. So it was only an input, a punched cards or a punched tapes used to give. Means a paper will be there, where they'll be punching the instructions, what are the instructions they wanted, and they'll be inserting it. It was in those days, it was so giving an input itself was a very tedious job. Okay, to give an input, so that was a very tedious job. Means they should understand those things and they'll be punching. So the name to punch the cards. In a card they'll be punching the instructions according to that, and they'll be inserting that into the system to process it. Okay, paper tapes. And how the output now, normally what you'll do any calculation, you'll see the output in the monitor, right? The result is coming or not, output is coming or not, you'll be saying. There was nothing like that. There was no monitor also. So imagine there was only an output device called as printout. So each and every time to see any result, they have to take a printout and they have to see whether the required answer has come, required result has come or not. So for that purpose, they were output was only printout. So these are the hardwares in those first generations. So there was a vacuum tube for electric generation, and they were, for the memory they were using a magnetic drums. For the input there was a punched cards or paper tapes. These are the input devices, and for the output they were using a printout. So these are the main things in those generation hardware technologies. Next, coming to the software and all, they can able to, if you take a software, no, there was a machine language. Machine language means understood, it is means only zeros and ones. So machine language, so everything, all the instructions has to be punched with zeros and ones. If zero means punch will not be there, one means punch will be there. In that way they used to punch the cards. They will be punching the cards to solve any problem. It was like that, they used to do that. So this is the way they have to give the input. So what they'll call that language as a machine language, because the machine can understand, right, zeros and ones. So it is called as a machine language. So they were using only everything with zeros and ones. Each and every instructions with zeros and ones they has to do it. And one more major thing, it can able to solve only one problem at a time. So one single problem they'll be writing an instruction, they'll be giving an input. In that way it was working. No other go. There was no multitasking, multiprocessing, nothing was there. Only it can able to solve only one problem. They'll be giving an input, take the solution and keep it. So in that way it was things. So this is the software. So if you take a software, you should understand that machine language is zeros and ones, and there is no multitasking concept in those days and all. One problem at a time. So this is how the software. So that's we discuss with your hardware and your software. Next, computing time. So we will be discussing about the time, which how much time to process a particular instruction. It was taking one instruction, it was taking milliseconds. It was okay in those days and all to solve each and everything in a by handwritten or something. No, that machine was okay because it can able to solve in a milliseconds. So computing time was okay for those times, those sort of days. And the appearance, physical appearance, automatically if it is a vacuum tube, I said, right, in those days to generate an electricity they will be using a vacuum tube. Vacuum tube itself is a very big mechanisms. So to big machines, so the appearance, how that appearance will be, you know, it's a very big, the machine will be very big size, almost one single room is required to install this particular computer in those days. So we need a separate room, a very big room to install this computer, install this one. So that is your physical appearance. So application, obviously we can't use it in our commercial purposes or in the offices and all. Okay, we will not install in those things. And application also, it can able to do some scientific purposes. For some scientific purposes they were using this first generation computers. It was not, it is those days, because it was machine level language also in those days and all, it can't able to solve any other normal commercial purpose things and all. It was not use also, and cost wise also it was very high. So it is not affordable for those days. Application, it can able to solve only scientific some problems and all, it can able to do it. Only in research places and all they were using this computers. So this is your first generation. So you have to remember your years, what technologies, what hardwares they were using it. The software is machine language, computing time you have to remember, and the appearance, because of vacuum tubes it was very big size, big in size, and the applications used was only in a scientific purposes. So this was your first generation. And one more important thing, main drawback of this generation was vacuum tubes. Still it has traveled for 16 years. Due to this vacuum tubes, what has happened, okay, more amount of heat will be generated. That is very much important. More amount of heat will be generated, and electricity consuming also was very high. So they can't able to run like 24 hours like what we are doing right now, 24 into 7 and all. They can't able to do it because the amount of heat generation will be more. They can able to run that particular system for 2 hours or 3 hours, and they have to shut down that one. This is how in those days it was, because of that heat generation and consuming of electricity and all. Now what we are doing it, now we are doing it with 24 into 7. That and all was not possible in those days. So that is also there. Due to this heat generation, what happened, obviously the electric things will get burnt away, or that maintenance and all will be much more costlier. We have to maintain that one, we have to keep on maintaining that one. That was also the one of the major drawback of this first generation. So what is a big era changed here? If you see, after 1956 and all, what is main thing they have done, there was a evaluation of transistors. In electric field, in an electronic field, what has happened, they found a concept called as transistors. What is it? The transistor, when it came, they have generated a transistor, means they have found that through transistor they can able to generate an electricity. So obviously when one thing has started, they have just implemented the transistor in computer also. So through transistor the electricity was generated. And what is a major thing with this vacuum tube and this transistor was size has reduced. Because what is this transistor can able to do, the transistor very big vacuum tubes has been reduced into a transistor. Small transistors was there, it can able to do that one. And what it is, the computer becomes smaller, which I said, and cheaper also, faster also compared to your first generation. So your computer has become, that's what I mentioned it, it has become smaller. Major thing, it has become smaller, cheaper also, and faster also, everything compared to this first generation. So that is your hardware. So transistor, due to these transistors, these are the advantages happen. Next, the memory. So here what I said, memory, they were using your magnetic drums and all. Here what they have done, instead of drums they were using your magnetic tapes and disc. Mainly they were using a technology called as magnetic core technology. So that technology was applied in your second generation, due to which a magnetic tape and magnetic discs and all was also been implemented. Magnetic disc also came into this particular generation. But the technology they were using is magnetic core technologies. What is that magnetic core technologies? In a sense, In that technology, what it is, a magnetic material will be filled in the tapes or the disk, and magnetization, through magnetizations they were storing the data. So they were storing the data through magnetization. Due to this techniques, they can able to go for this disk and tape to store the data. Next, and there was no change in your input and output, same like what we had here, your punched cards and paper cards. Here also the same inputs were used. There was no monitor, there was no keyboard or something in your second generation. Only major change with your memory, they were using the drums over there. Here with the magnetic core technology, magnetization, through magnetization this disk and tape has been implemented over there. So the new thing came into this generation was your transistor, major important thing which made the computer smaller and cheaper. And memory, change in the memory was your disk and the tape. So this is a major change in that. Next, coming to your software in the second generation, if you take, they were using a language called as, what language in the first generation? It was a machine language, zeros and ones. Here they found a code called as mnemonic codes. This mnemonic codes, through this mnemonic codes, a language called as assembly language was there. Bit easier compared to machine language. Instead of remembering everything with zeros and ones and all, assembly language was okay, like where I can able to remember this certain mnemonic codes and able to perform your operations. Then in those generation, high level language also came into existence. Certain like your COBOL and Photon was the language introduced in those days. There was no C, C++ and all, which you already know. The languages which came into existence was COBOL and Photon. High level also came into their existence. Next, the computing time. The computing time, I said milliseconds. So compared to millisecond, it has become micro. Obviously, the speed has increased compared to your first generation. Appearance, already I said, it has become smaller and cheaper also. Compared to your first generation, the appearance also has become smaller because of the transistor implementation. Next is your application. Because of that size and things and all, the size has reduced. So obviously size has reduced, but the cost for the commercial usage was high. So for the commercial purposes, means commercial in a sense for your office purpose, for your marketing purpose and all, the commercial wise it was not affordable because the cost was high. So it has not come into a market for commercial purposes and all. Application wise, if you use, they were using for the scientific purposes and all, and certain big researchers, they were using it still now because of the cost. Even though size has reduced, because of the cost purposes, it has not come into your commercial purposes. Applications for meant for only for those things and all. Next, coming to your third generation, if you take, the year was 1964. Starts from 1964, very important generation. Right now, what and all you are seeing in your right now generation, or everything came into your third and most in 1964s, it has come into an existence. So 1964 to 71, almost again 10 years, again 8 to 9 years, what has happened? The third generation was going on with an IC. IC means integrated circuit chips. Integrate. This is another one more evolution of your electronic. What they have done it, all the transistors, what they were doing, for each and every operations they were using a transistor. Then what they have done, they can integrate it. They're planning to integrate the transistors over there. So the name integrated circuit, IC. Integrate means combining. So many number of transistors has been combined. That's what a small diagram. Many transistors has been integrated into a single chip called as silicon chips. Has got integrated and made into a single chip. One chip was required. 1 or 2 chips is enough to make a to make a circuit. So in that way the evolution came. So through that one, the IC, through this IC means integrated circuits, what it has done, it has increased the speed and efficiency of the computer. This is very important. It has increased the speed compared to your second generation. It has increased the speed and efficiency of the computer also. So that is your hardware of introduction of IC integrated circuits, where many transistors has been integrated, combined into one single chip called as silicon chip. It is one of the semiconductor. Silicon chip is one of the semiconductor where you can able to do that electronic things easily, right? So next, speed and efficiency. So here an introduction of input and output, very important one. Your keyboard and monitor, which you are right now seeing, has been introduced in your third generation. So there was no punched cards or punched tapes, printouts and all. Instead of that, they've introduced input device and output devices as keyboard and monitor came into this particular generations. Next, in your software technology, obviously I said in your second generation only high level started and all. Okay, here in your software technology, very important thing means an introduction of operating system came into an existence. Why this OS operating system? What this operating system will do? It acts as an interface. Your operating system, if you take, it acts as an interface. Because of the evolution of this keyboard and monitor, through keyboard I'll be entering your ABCD, which the machine can't able to understand. So obviously the input is having that normal language, normal English language, which should be understood by the machine. So there should be an interface, okay, which the operating system will be acting as an interface between your input and the machine language, and then from the machine language to the monitor output. So in this way, so an introduction of operating system came into existence after introducing this keyboard and monitor, because it was a good interface. As OS has come into an event, what it is doing, your multitasking came into existence. Everything came into this third generation. Remember this third generation, important IC, speed and efficiency, keyboard and monitor. Do this keyboard and monitor. Your operating system has been introduced, which was acting as an interface between the keyboard and the machine, between the machine and the monitor. Input and output devices, it was acting as an interface, intermediate. And due to this OS also, this OS can able to handle this multitasking. Multitasking means many applications running at a time. Whereas if you take a first generation, what I said, only one single problem can be solved at a time, I said. Okay, but here multitasking came into an existence. So that is your software technology. Next, computing time. See how it has been changed. It has come into nanoseconds, very small nano, not even micro, not even million. It has become very small. It has become nanoseconds. That is your computing time. So obviously what it has become here in the third generation, they have started using in a commercial purpose. One more thing to remember, commercial I'm telling, not in your home usages, commercials and all, in offices and all they started to use, in big offices, MNC companies and all they started to, industries and companies they started to use it. So that commercial purpose has come into a existence. Why? Because it has become cheaper. Because of cheaper, they have cost wise it has become cheaper. So commercially they started to use it also. Okay. Through these things. So these are the things inside your third generation. Next, coming to your fourth generation, which you are right now using it. Okay, almost in 1971. The fourth generation has come into, till now we are using this fourth generation only. And the introduction or the evolution of your microprocessor, very important, microprocessor, where what they have done it, very large scale integration. Already integration I told it. What is that integrated? This, okay, what is it? Thousands of transistors. Okay, thousands of transistors integrated into a small chip. Very large scale integration. Very many number of transistors has been integrated into a single chip using a technology called as VLSI technology. It is one technology. So using this technology, many number of transistors has been put into one single. So to at least here what it is, I need 4-5 IC. Everything has been combined into one single chip. That is more than enough it was for this hardware technology. Due to this, what has happened in this generation, obviously it has become very small, very where we started to use a personal computers. Okay, all the personal computers come into an existence. PCs. So each and every home was having a PC, laptops. Laptop also came into an existence, laptops. Even your smartphones, your palm phone, that and all has been come into these things. Next, here the memory. Here what I said, magnetic core technology they were using, I said no, in the second generation. The same thing they have followed in your third generation also. In a fourth generation, in the memory they have started a semiconductor memory. Semiconductor memory. So your memory disk and all what they were using is semiconductor memory disk, which right now we are using is your technology called as semiconductor memory technology. So that they were using it. And one more thing, networking. Networking means what? Linking between the computers. It is nothing but your link between computers. So a computer started talking between each other. So that is a networking. So that networking came into existence inside your fourth generation, where each and every computer started to communicate among themselves. So that is also, and pointing devices like your mouse, touch screen, those things and all was also introduced your fourth generation. So what and all you are seeing right now is your fourth generation. You are using your mouse, you are using your touch screens and all, with your smartphones and all. Networking, so your computer has become 24/7, where the computer started talking, able to pass the messages through computers. So these are the new inventions inside your fourth generation, and the main invention of your microprocessor using your VLSI technologies. So these and all comes under your hardware technology in your fourth generation. Next, your software if you come. Okay, mainly it has become very user friendly, where everyone started to use, I said no, user friendly because of this GUI. GUI means graphical user interface. Graphical user interface. What is this graphical user interface? Everything has become an icon, in icon basis. Everything, just you have to just touch that icon, it will be opening, it will be closing. So that user friendly, that even a layman, even the person who don't know about the computer started using this one, software technology, because of this graphical user interface, which the Windows started using. No, Microsoft Windows is there, they have introduced this one and found this software come into an evolution which made it very user friendly for everyone. Computing time. Okay, what it has become, from your micro, milli, nano, it has become picoseconds, very very less the appearance. And obviously how the appearance, it has almost come to your palm size, your hand, in the inside your hand. Your computer has come inside your hand over there, so the size was inside your hand. Next, coming to your application wise, widely all commercial purposes, house, they were using in your houses. That's what I said, your laptops, your personal computers has come, everyone even started even. That's what, if it is a very less small size, palm size, your smartphone, your palms, your tablets, everything has comes under this your fourth generation. Next is the last generation is the fifth generation, present till the future. They are still in your planning. Few things they are right now in your research purpose. Okay, AI, artificial intelligence. So what is the main aim of this fifth generation is, in the near future, what can able to come is, they are trying to make the computer to learn and self-organize what a human is doing. He's learning and doing a researching, self-organization, no, so that they are trying to make it with the computer. Example, robot and all, they are training in that way. They are training by writing programs and inserting that artificial intelligence, making the computer to think and work according to that one. And the technology they were using here is super large scale integration. Okay, very large integration, I said no, that technology, this is super large scale integration, that technology they are using it in the fifth generation. It is still under process. Certain things we are doing it, certain things now actually we are implementing that one. And here what it is, in this super large computers, millions of computer in a single chip. I said no, here many transistors and all, millions of components have integrated it. That is your super large scale industry. So that one. And next one, this is important, parallel processing. Parallel processing means different processing working in parallel. So that technology is also they are implementing, they are doing it now in this one. So using this artificial intelligence, they are trying to simulate the human, trying to work like a human. That's what they are telling here. Stimulate like a human, make how the human can able to think and how is they able to reasoning and how he is performing. That they are trying to make it using your computer, and they are under that research, and few things they are just bringing it. Certain robots are there which can able to do it. Not full-fledged, but it is under process. And few machines has come into things. We have seen many robots over there. Exactly can't able to think, but whatever is being programmed, it can able to work it out in that way. So this is your fifth generation. So these are the different generations of computer in their things. So today students, learn this generation of computer and practice it. Thank you.